19th of December 1944, 06:23 hours. Forest perimeter, Noville, Belgium. Frost bit deep into Unteroffizier Klaus Wendel's fingertips as he fought to grip his pencil. Vapor trailing from his lips inside the steel confines of his Panther's fighting compartment. His journal entry trembled with more than cold. The enemy has unleashed a phantom. We detect their presence by sound alone, invisible until the killing blow lands. By the moment our turret completes its arc, the threat has evaporated. Yesterday, 3 Tigers reduced to funeral pyres. Through the cupola's narrow vision port, Wendell scanned the Ardennes tree line, unaware that elements of the American 75th Tank Destroyer Battalion were already maneuvering their M18 Hellcats into firing positions. In precisely 17 minutes, every tactical assumption the Wehrmacht had codified across 5 years of continental warfare would be obliterated by a machine that defied every established principle of armored engagement. Thetorn, Panther beneath him mounted a 75mm Minbo, ninny-clamped main gun, capable of defeating any Allied tank at 2 kilometers. Its glacis plate could shrug off most enemy ordnance. It embodied Germanic engineering supremacy. Massive, lethal, methodical. Yet in fewer than 180 seconds from initial contact, Wendell would bear witness to the annihilation of multiple panzers by adversaries traveling at velocities German armor could never achieve even on paved highways. The Ardennes offensive had entered its 4th day. Across the snow-choked forest spanning Belgium and Luxembourg, panzer crews were confronting a nightmarish truth. Their American opponents had engineered something that killed in ways no armored vehicle in history had killed before. Not through superior protection, not through overwhelming firepower, through pure, terrifying velocity, speeds that seemed incompatible with battlefield survival. December 1941. Genesis of the Beast, the M18. Hellcat's conceptual birth coincided with America's entry into global conflict. While German tank philosophy evolved toward crushing firepower and impenetrable protection, spawning 45-ton Panthers and nearly 70-ton Königstiger behemoths, designers at General Motors pursued a radically divergent path that would become the stuff of German nightmares 3 years hence. The Tank Destroyer Force, established under directive from General Leslie McNair on 24 November 1941, operated on a doctrine crystallized in Field Manual FM 18-5. Seek, strike, destroy. Speed and offensive punch superseded armor protection. The M18, development designation T-70, would incarnate this philosophy to extremes that German engineers dismissed as battlefield suicide. Buick Motor Division in Flint, Michigan received the development contract in January 1942. Chief Engineer Joseph Roberts faced seemingly irreconcilable parameters. Integrate a high-velocity 76mm gun capable of destroying any panzer. Maintain minimal profile for tactical concealment. Achieve velocities exceeding 50 miles per hour. Constrain total weight below 20 tons. The solution violated every convention of tank architecture. The M18's armor measured a mere 25.4 millimeters at maximum thickness on the turret face, 12.7 millimeters on the hull front, barely sufficient to defeat heavy machine gun fire. An 88-meter shell wouldn't merely penetrate, it would pass through both sides completely. The design subordinated everything to mobility, creating what military historians would ultimately classify as the fastest tracked combat vehicle of the Second World War. First Blood. Normandy. Summer 1944, the initial M18 Hellcats arrived in the European theater during early 1944. Following preliminary action in Italy with the 894th Tank Destroyer Battalion, the 74th became the first European theater unit to receive M18s in May 1944. disembarking at Utah Beach on 13th July. But it was during the Normandy breakout that German Panzer crews first encountered what would become their recurring nightmare. July 1944, vicinity of Coutances, France. German heavy tank battalions filed disturbing after-action reports describing encounters with American tank destroyers that vanished before German guns could answer. Combat logs documented enemy vehicles demonstrating estimated velocities of 80 kilometers per hour across broken terrain. Engagement duration from initial shot to final sighting, approximately 180 seconds. The mathematics were elegantly terrifying. A Panther's turret required 60 seconds for complete rotation. Maximum velocity, 34 miles per hour on roads, 15 cross-country. The M18 Hellcat could surge from standstill to 30 miles per hour in 7 seconds, sustain 55 miles per hour on roads, 60 without governor, maintain 26 miles per hour across country. In the 3 minutes required for a German crew to identify threat, rotate turret, acquire target, and discharge ordnance, the Hellcat could relocate nearly a mile and a half. The fear was rational. The M18's 76mm M1A2 gun, while incapable of defeating Panther frontal armor with standard M62A APCBC ammunition, could easily penetrate the 40mm side plating at 1,500 meters. With M93 HVAP tungsten core rounds, severely rationed, crews receiving perhaps 1 or 2 monthly, penetration reached 157 millimeters at 500 yards. The gun's muzzle velocity of 2,600 feet per second meant the projectile arrived before the report. German doctrine emphasized deliberate engagement, careful target identification, methodical aiming, ammunition conservation. Crews drilled extensively on static defensive fighting, using terrain for hull-down positions. The Panther and Tiger were engineered for this doctrine, heavily armored, powerfully gunned, advancing slowly but inexorably. The Hellcat shattered every element of this training. Camp Hood. Texas, forging the Hunter's M18 crews received instruction at Camp Hood. Texas, established explicitly as the tank destroyer tactical and firing center on 158,706 acres, to never remain stationary beyond 30 seconds post-firing. The operational motto became doctrine, speed is life. Where German philosophy emphasized the decisive shot, American tank destroyer doctrine preached shoot and scoot. Between July 1943 and October 1944, Buick's Flint facility manufactured exactly 2,507 M18 Hellcats, far below the originally projected 8,986 vehicles. Production encompassed 6 pilot models, an initial 1,000-unit contract, and a final order of 1,507 units. Peak monthly output reached 267 units in November 1943. This modest production rate, while dwarfed by Sherman tank output, nonetheless exceeded German Panther manufacturing. While Germany struggled to produce 90 Panthers monthly by late 1944, American factories had already completed the entire Hellcat production run. The disparity meant German crews understood each lost Panther or Tiger was essentially irreplaceable. American forces could absorb and rapidly replace any losses. The Iron Heart, engineering supremacy. The M18 featured a Wright R975 radial engine originally designed for aircraft applications. Early production vehicles, serial numbers 1-14350, employed the naturally aspirated R975C1, generating 350 horsepower. Later models, serial 11351-2507, received the supercharged R975C4, producing 400 horsepower beginning March 1944. This power plant combined with the vehicle's 17.7 to 20 ton weight, sources vary by configuration, created an exceptional power-to-weight ratio of 20 to 22.5 horsepower per ton, compared. to the Panther's 15 horsepower per ton, the Hellcat's hydromatic automatic. Transmission with torque converter enabled drivers to maintain maximum velocity while maneuvering. AE, critical advantage over German tanks, requiring manual shifting and clutch operation. The ground pressure of merely 10.5 psi, less than many wheeled vehicles, meant Hellcats could traverse mud and snow that immobilized 57-ton Tigers, 15.2 psi ground pressure, and nearly 70-ton Königstigers. Arracourt, the proving ground. Habitier, Battle of Arracourt, fought 1829, September 1944, near the Nancy bridgehead across the Moselle River, demonstrated the M18's potential under optimal employment. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion, attached to 4th Armored Division's Combat Command A, confronted elements of the German 113th Panzer Brigade under conditions favoring the defenders. September, Lieutenant Edwin Leiper's platoon engaged. German armor in dense fog at extreme close range. Visibility limited to 30 feet. In the initial 5 minutes, his M18s destroyed 5 German tanks while losing a single vehicle. The engagement continued. 10 additional enemy tanks destroyed. For the loss of 2 more M18s, Captain Tom Evans earned the Distinguished Service Cross after personally manning a disabled M18's gun to eliminate enemy panzers. The Arracourt results were staggering. 39 German tanks destroyed for 4 M18 tanks destroyed and 3 damaged. 80 sites at 5.2x 5 TE.1 kill ratio, validating the tank destroyer concept. The Bulge, legend forged in ice December 1944's Battle of the Bulge, became the Hellcat's most legendary proving ground. The 75th Tank Destroyer Battalion, described by General A.D. Bruce as the finest tank destroyer battalion yet trained, rushed to defend Bastogne, providing critical armored support for the 101st Airborne Division. 20 Tours, December 1944, near Noville, M18s from both the 609th and 75th Tank Destroyer Battalions engaged elements of 2nd Panzer Division. The 609th arrived first with Team Desaubry. Lieutenant David K. Hagens's platoon of 4 M18s achieving remarkable results. 1 vehicle eliminated 7 German tanks. Another destroyed 5, losing only 1 M18 while destroying 14 enemy tanks total. The Feed-on-Heat 705th under Lieutenant Colonel Clifford D. Templeton reinforced late on 19th in December with approximately 12 M18s. The He combined force helped destroy at least 30 German tanks over 2 days, inflicting 1,000 German casualties while achieving a crucial 48-hour delay. The 75th would later receive a Presidential Unit Citation for actions at Bastogne, 18 to 27th of December 1944. On Christmas Day, 1944 alone, the 75th destroyed 27 German tanks while losing 6 M18s, engaging the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division, maintaining exceptional kill ratios even in desperate fighting. Overall, during the Bastogne siege, the 75th destroyed approximately 40 German tanks for 6 M18 losses, a 6.7.1 kill ratio. Winter's advantage. When conditions favored the hunters, the Hellcat's advantages amplified in adverse conditions. While German heavy tanks foundered in mud and snow, the M18's lightweight and low ground pressure maintained mobility. During the Bulge's opening phase, heavy fog grounding air support and limiting visibility below 100 meters, German doctrine's reliance on long-range gunnery superiority became negated. Hellcat crews, trained for close-range ambush at Camp Hood's Revolutionary Battle Conditioning Course, thrived in these conditions. The M18's lightweight provided strategic mobility German heavy tanks couldn't match. While a Königstiger required Class 70 bridges, Rare in Europe, the M18 could cross Class 24 bridges, essentially any structure supporting a loaded truck. This advantage proved decisive during Rhine crossings. While German heavy tanks searched for intact bridges strong enough to bear them, Hellcats crossed on temporary structures erected by combat engineers. Industrial arithmetic, the mathematics of victory. While American factories built 2,507 M18 Hellcats. Between July 1943 and October 1944, Germany struggled throughout the war to produce heavy tanks. Total Panther production reached approximately 6,000 vehicles. Only 492 Königstigers and 1,347 Tigers were ever constructed. The mathematics of industrial capacity were inescapable. For every Panther produced, America built 8 tank destroyers and tanks combined. German tank crews faced not merely superior tactics, but overwhelming numbers. American production included 49,234 M4 Shermans, 2,507 M18 Hellcats, 2,324 M10 tank destroyers, 2,273 M36 tank destroyers, plus 8,410 other armored vehicles. Training. The human weapon German tank crew training in 1944 emphasized methodical engagement, careful target acquisition, deliberate aiming, ammunition conservation. By late 1944, veteran German tank crews became increasingly rare. Replacements received minimal training, sometimes merely 2 weeks, before facing combat. American Hellcat crews, conversely, received extensive training at Camp Hood, later Fort Hood, Texas. The Tank Destroyer Schools program included 17 weeks of intensive training, emphasizing speed, mobility, and initiative. The facility, commanded initially by Lieutenant Colonel, later Brigadier General, Andrew D. Bruce, could train 100,000 soldiers simultaneously with 28 battalions and 8 groups in various preparation stages. Crews practiced high-speed firing, rapid displacement, and coordinated attacks until these became instinctive. The Revolutionary Battle Conditioning Course, originally called the Tank Hunting Course, became the first U.S. Army training employing live fire overhead, with trainees spending a full week in simulated combat conditions. Doctrine evolution, from theory to bloodied practice. By late 1944, American tank destroyer doctrine had evolved from initial concepts to proven combat techniques. FM 18-5, published June 1942, stated, "There is but one battle objective of tank destroyer units, the destruction of hostile tanks." General Bruce later clarified, "Seek" meant vigorous reconnaissance. "Strike" meant destruction through gunfire rather than charging. "Destroy" meant elimination through superior tactics. Combat experience modified these concepts. North African battles taught that pure offensive charges were suicidal. Instead, aggressive spirit combined with stealth and deception became the cornerstone of successful tank destroyer employment. Entry 18. Crews developed wolf-pack tactics, 3 or 4. Hellcats operating in coordinated but independent attacks, communicating by radio to create overlapping fields of fire while maintaining constant movement. The final accounting, Numbers That Tell the Story. By war's end, M18 Hellcat units had achieved remarkable combat statistics. The Army Historical Foundation documents 526 total enemy armored vehicle kills, 498 in Europe, 17 in Italy, 11 in the Pacific. With approximately 216 M18s lost to enemy fire in the European theater, this produced an overall kill-to-loss ratio of 2.4, 120. 1:1, 2.3.1 in Europe specifically, the battery, highest of any U.S. tank or tank destroyer. In World War II, due to individual, unit achievements often exceeded these averages. The 630th Tank Destroyer Battalion. Upwards of 90 enemy armored fighting vehicles destroyed. the 704th. Similar numbers, with Arracourt engagement alone, accounting for 39 or 29 kills, the 705. Dear T. Her T. Performance at Bastogne. 40 tanks destroyed for 6 lost, the 601st Tank Destroyer Battalion. Highest documented ratio at nearly 23.1 loss analysis revealed 40 to 50% of M18 casualties resulted from enemy tanks and anti-tank guns exploiting the vehicle's minimal armor, while 25–35% stemmed from mechanical breakdowns. Remaining losses came from infantry anti-tank weapons, artillery and mines. Philosophy in steel. 2 doctrines, 2 destinies. The fundamental difference between German and American armored vehicle design philosophy becomes stark when comparing specifications. Panther, 44.845 tons, 80mm frontal armor sloped at 55 deg, effective 100. Foe, Tiger 1 57 tons, 100mm vertical frontal armor Königstiger, 69.8 tons, 150mm sloped frontal armor, 100 mm 70mm turret armor against this, M18 Hellcat, 17.7 to 20 tons, armor ranging from 12.7mm hull to 25.4mm turret front, thinner than some German armored cars. Yet this apparent vulnerability enabled the speed that became its primary defense. At 500 meters, a Hellcat moving perpendicular at 40 mph would cross a Tiger's gun arc in 4-point fast. Enterstörtrader tours. Harband von Haut Fadrit Fadioder Totverserders. Then the gunner could track with manual traverse. After hydraulic failure, a common combat. Occurrence. Mechanical reliability. The invisible advantage beyond speed. The M18 demonstrated superior mechanical reliability compared to German heavy tanks. The Wright R975 radial engine, derived from proven aircraft designs, started reliably even in sub-zero conditions. German tank crews using diesel engines requiring careful warm-up procedures couldn't comprehend how Hellcats could start instantly and accelerate immediately. The Panther's sophisticated transmission, while technically advanced, proved fragile under combat conditions. Final drive failures plagued the design throughout its service life. The Königstiger's complexity meant more were lost to mechanical failure than enemy action. Meanwhile, the M18's simplified design, using proven automotive components wherever possible, ensured consistent operational readiness. Logistics. The foundation of lethality, American logistical superiority, amplified the M18's effectiveness. While German tanks often sat idle for lack of fuel, spare parts, or ammunition, Hellcat units maintained high operational rates through efficient supply chains. The famous Red Ball Express and similar logistics operations ensured consistent fuel deliveries. While standardized parts meant easy field maintenance, German forces by late 1944 faced chronic fuel shortages. Operation Wacht am Rhein, the German Ardennes offensive, partially aimed to capture Allied fuel dumps because German supplies couldn't sustain prolonged operations. This fuel situation meant German tanks often fought defensively from static positions, exactly where the mobile Hellcat held maximum advantage. Communications. The tactical multiplier, every M18 carried both radio and intercom systems that functioned reliably. SCR 508 or SCR 528 radio sets providing consistent communication. German tanks, especially by late 1944, often operated with degraded or non-functional communications, relying on signal flags or pre-battle planning. This seemingly minor detail carried major tactical implications. Hellcat platoons coordinated attacks in real time, adjusting to German responses instantly. When 4 Hellcats attacked from different directions, they operated as a single organism through radio coordination. German tanks, often fighting in communication isolation, couldn't match this flexibility. Italy. The early warning before the Hellcat's legendary performance in northwest Europe, the Italian campaign provided German forces with their first warnings. In May 1944, during the breakout from Anzio, the 894th Tank Destroyer Battalion's Hellcats faced elements of the Hermann Göring Panzer Division. The terrain, rolling hills with vineyards and stone walls, should have neutralized the M18's speed advantage. Instead, it amplified their psychological impact. The Hellcats used their ability to accelerate up 30-degree slopes at speeds German tanks couldn't achieve on flat ground, creating an illusion of omnipresence by appearing at multiple points along ridge lines in rapid succession. This early demonstration of Hellcat capabilities went largely unheeded by German high command, who remained focused on the Eastern Front, where most German armor was committed. German countermeasures. Desperation in doctrine. German forces attempted various counter-tactics against the Hellcat threat. Updated tactical manuals recommended immediate smoke deployment when M18s were identified, essentially blinding themselves, hoping the threat would pass. Other desperate measures included welding additional track links to side armor, ineffective against 76mm rounds, and creating deliberate ambushes with hidden anti-tank guns. Nothing worked consistently. The Hellcat's combination of speed, firepower, and tactical flexibility proved insurmountable with available German resources. The vehicle's very presence altered German behavior. Commanders became reluctant to commit armor without extensive reconnaissance, sacrificing initiative and momentum. During the Ardennes offensive, intercepted German communications revealed commanders requesting verification that no Hellcats were present before committing reserves. Hours were lost to reconnaissance, momentum sacrificed to caution. The offensive that was supposed to split Allied forces was partially paralyzed by fear of vehicles weighing less than half a Panther. March 1945, Remagen, the bridge. Too far for German armor near Remagen in March 1945. M18s from the 656th Tank Destroyer Battalion crossed the captured Ludendorff Bridge while it was too damaged for heavier vehicles. They established a screen that destroyed 11 German tanks attempting to approach the bridge, including 2 Königstigers that couldn't maneuver quickly enough in confined terrain. This action demonstrated the strategic value of the M18's lightweight. While German heavy tanks required specific routes and specially reinforced bridges, Hellcats could use any crossing that supported truck traffic, appearing in impossible locations behind German lines. April 1945. The Ruhr Pocket. The final hunt April. 1945 saw the Ruhr Pocket become a massive trap for German Army Group B. The 893rd Tank Destroyer Battalion's Hellcats conducted what historians consider exemplary tank destroyer operations, racing through collapsing German lines at speeds approaching 60 km/h on cleared autobahns, appearing deep in German rear areas before commanders knew the front had been penetrated. These final operations demonstrated the M18's concept brought to full maturity. Speed as weapon, mobility as armor, surprise as primary tactic. German defensive positions designed to stop deliberate attacks by heavy tanks proved useless against vehicles that simply raced around them at highway speeds. Post-war analysis. Vindication. Despite limitations, post-war analysis by U.S. Army historians validated the M18 concept, despite its limitations. The 76mm gun's inability to penetrate Panther or Tiger frontal armor with standard ammunition forced reliance on flanking attacks, missions where the vehicle's speed became essential, with standard M62 APCBC rounds achieving only 93mm penetration at 500 yards and scarce HVAP rounds. Crews had to close to suicidal ranges for frontal engagements against German heavy tanks. Yet the combat record speaks definitively. 526 confirmed kills against 216 combat losses produced the highest kill-to-loss ratio of any American armored vehicle in World War II. This success came not from superior firepower or protection, but from revolutionary employment of speed and mobility combined with superior crew training. Legacy. More than metal, the M18 Hellcat represented more than a vehicle. It embodied a completely different conception of armored warfare. While Germany perfected the tank as breakthrough weapon and mobile fortress, America created something new. The tank destroyer as pure hunter. The tank destroyer force's motto, seek, strike, and destroy, proved prophetic. By war's end, American tank destroyer battalions claimed over 11,000 enemy vehicles destroyed in total, with Hellcat units achieving the highest kill ratios. The doctrine emphasized that tank destroyers were not tanks and shouldn't fight like tanks. They were hunters that struck from ambush and vanished. Beyond tactical success, the Hellcat achieved strategic effects. German armored reserves, instead of concentrating for offensive operations, were increasingly held back to guard against tank destroyer raids. The mere presence of Hellcat units in a sector could freeze German armored movement for hours, while commanders sought confirmation of their locations. The human cost? Tragedy in statistics. Behind the statistics lay human tragedy on both sides. Young German tankers, many still teenagers by 1945, faced an enemy that negated everything they'd been taught. Their carefully maintained Panthers and Tigers, representing the peak of German engineering, burned just as readily when struck by Hellcat rounds fired from ambush. American crews, while suffering far fewer losses, carried their own burdens. The speed that saved them also meant striking without warning, often giving German crews no chance to surrender or escape. The minimal armor meant that when M18s were hit, catastrophic losses often resulted, though the open-topped turret design actually improved crew survival rates to over 80%, compared to just 35% for German heavy tank crews. The iron irony: victory through vulnerability. The supreme irony of the Hellcat story is that German doctrine created the conditions for its success. By building increasingly heavy tanks, Panthers, Tigers, Königstigers, Germany created slow, road-bound targets perfect for Hellcat tactics. Had Germany continued developing lighter, mobile tanks, the Hellcat's advantages would have been minimized. Every ton added to German tanks made them more vulnerable to American tank destroyers. The pursuit of invulnerable supertanks created vehicles that couldn't respond to high-speed warfare. In building fortresses, Germany became vulnerable to enemies that fought like cavalry, racing cars with guns that struck and vanished before retaliation was possible. The 2005-07 American Industrial Philosophy. The 2,507 Hellcats built represented American industrial philosophy, not perfection, but practical efficiency. While Germany built 6,000 Panthers over 3 years, struggling with quality control and component shortages, Buick produced all M18s in just 15 months, using proven components and simplified construction. German engineers examining captured M18s noted the apparent crudity: functional welds rather than perfect joints, armor plate showing tool marks, interior ergonomics seemingly accidental. Yet this crude vehicle consistently destroyed German tanks built with watchmaker precision. The difference lay in design philosophy. Germany built engineering monuments. America built practical tools. 3 minutes, the difference between life and death. For German tank crews in 1944-45, 3 minutes was all they had. 3 minutes from the first sound of high-revving engines to the impact of 76mm rounds. 3 minutes to identify the threat, traverse their turret, acquire target, and fire. While the Hellcat was already racing to its next position at 55 81 Satru. 3 minutes that usually ended with their tank burning and the Hellcat vanishing into the distance, seeking its next victim. The Hellcat proved that in modern warfare, speed doesn't just kill, it renders strength irrelevant. The German crews who survived those 3 minutes learned a lesson that would reshape armored warfare doctrine. Sometimes the best armor is not being where the enemy can shoot you. Sometimes the most powerful gun is the one that fires from where the enemy doesn't expect. Sometimes the greatest victory comes not from building the strongest tank, but from building the right tank for the war you're actually fighting. The verdict: doctrine over technology. The M18 Hellcat proved that victory doesn't require the best equipment. It requires the right equipment, properly employed. German crews in their magnificent Panthers and Tigers were defeated by American crews in vehicles that seemed impossibly vulnerable. It remains one of history's great examples of doctrine defeating technology. Military historian Stephen J. Zaloga characterized the M18 as poorly balanced, while noting its success was attributable to crew training and dedication, not to its ill-conceived design. Yet this assessment misses a crucial point: the poor balance of extreme speed over armor. Protection was precisely what enabled the revolutionary tactics that produced the highest kill-to-loss ratio of any American armored vehicle in World War II. Final specifications: the numbers that define the Legend production: 2,507 total manufactured production. Period. July 1943, October 1944, 15 months. Peak production: 267 units, November 1943. Unit cost: $5,750, $1943. Production location: Buick Division, Flint, Michigan. Performance: maximum speed 55 v/s, 45 min/s, governed 60 mph, ungoverned. Acceleration: 0 to 30 mph in 7 seconds. Range: 100 to 105 miles. Power to weight ratio: 22.5 HP ton ground. Pressure: 10.3 55 psi. Combat: record enemy vehicles destroyed 500 seconds. 26 CD6. Confirmed M18 lost to enemy fire, 216 overall kill. Ratio: 2.4.1. 1. European theater ratio: 2.3.1. Comparative German tank specifications: Panther 44.8, 45 tons, 15 HP ton, 34 methamp. Maximum Tiger I 57 tons, 100 mm frontal armor, 1,340 Thieden. Fabric Hind 47 produced Tiger II, 69.8 tons, 150 mm frontal armor, 492 produced Epilogue. The echo across decades. The M18 Hellcat's influence extended beyond World War II. Post-war armies studied its employment, recognizing that mobility could trump protection in certain circumstances. Modern military doctrine's emphasis on shoot and scoot, rapid displacement, and mobility as survival technique all trace roots to M18 employment in 1944-45. Today, at Fort Moore, formerly Fort Benning, a restored M18 Hellcat stands at the Armor School entrance. Its plaque commemorates it as the fastest armored fighting vehicle of World War II and proof that American ingenuity and mass production could defeat sophisticated enemy tanks through speed and tactical innovation. In those 3 minutes lay the difference between old thinking and new, between fighting the last war and fighting the current one, between perfection and pragmatism. The M18 Hellcat, under-armored, outgunned by German tanks, dismissed by some as poorly designed, achieved what German supertanks could not: battlefield dominance through speed, training, and revolutionary employment. For German tank crews facing M18 Hellcats, 3 minutes was a lifetime. For most, it was all the lifetime they had left. Your mission orders. This is not entertainment. This is history that demanded blood and steel to write. Every fact you've just absorbed was paid for in the lives of young men who never saw their 25th birthdays, German and American alike. If this chronicle of doctrine defeating technology, of speed conquering armor, of American ingenuity triumphing over Germanic engineering supremacy has moved you, then you have orders. Subscribe to this channel immediately. More untold stories of World War II await. Accounts of courage, innovation, and sacrifice that mainstream history has buried in dusty archives. Hit that like button as if you're slamming a 76mm shell into the breach. Let the algorithm know that real history, not sanitized, not simplified, but raw and authentic, matters. Share this video with every history enthusiast, veteran, and patriot in your network. These stories die when we stop telling them. The men of the 75th Tank Destroyer Battalion, the 704th, the 609th. They bled for this history. The least we can do is ensure it's remembered. Comment below. What other legendary but overlooked weapons systems from WW2 should we investigate next? The P-61 Black Widow? The Pershing's race to Germany? The submarine war in the Pacific? The next mission briefing begins in 7 days. Don't be absent without leave. This is your commander signing off. Remember, speed is life, history is immortal, and your subscription ensures both survive. Dismissed.